What if one of America's oldest and most baffling mysteries, the vanishing of the Roanoke colony, wasn't a story of failure, but one of hidden adaptation? For over 4 centuries, the disappearance of more than 100 English men, women, and children from a remote island off the coast of what is now North Carolina has sparked endless debate. Was it disease? Starvation? Warfare with Native American tribes? A natural disaster? Or something far more sinister? Something perhaps even supernatural? The truth, it seems, has eluded us, buried beneath layers of speculation and conjecture. But now, a groundbreaking approach using artificial intelligence is offering a new perspective. We're not talking about simply digitizing old maps, folks. This is about feeding vast quantities of data, historical documents, archaeological findings, weather patterns, even linguistic analyses, into a sophisticated AI capable of identifying patterns and connections that the human eye, even with centuries of collective research, has consistently missed. Think of it as giving Sherlock Holmes a supercomputer and an endless supply of clues. The story, as most know, begins in 1587. A group of English settlers led by Governor John White arrived on Roanoke Island, a strategically important location, for establishing a permanent English foothold in the New World. The goal? To create a self-sustaining community, a beacon of English civilization in the vast and often unforgiving landscape of North America. But life on Roanoke proved challenging. Supplies dwindled, relations with local tribes were strained, and the future of the colony looked increasingly bleak. Faced with the looming threat of starvation, Governor White made a difficult decision. He would return to England to gather reinforcements and supplies, promising to return swiftly to his family and the struggling colonists. However, fate, as it often does, had other plans. England soon found itself embroiled in a bitter and protracted war with Spain. The Anglo-Spanish War consumed the nation's resources and delayed White's return. 3 long years passed before he could finally set sail back to Roanoke. What he found upon his return was chilling, a scene of utter abandonment. The colony was deserted. Houses were dismantled, not destroyed, suggesting a deliberate, organized departure. No bodies were found, no signs of a battle or a massacre. Just silence. An eerie, unsettling silence, broken only by a single clue: the word Croatoan carved into a post. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, and the name of a Native American tribe friendly to the English. For centuries, this clue has been the cornerstone of the most widely accepted theory, that the Roanoke colonists integrated with the Croatoan tribe, abandoning their settlement and assimilating into Native American society. It's a plausible theory, one that offers a comforting narrative of survival and cultural exchange. However, it fails to address several crucial questions. Why leave no further trace? Why dismantle the settlement so thoroughly? And why, despite numerous searches, has definitive archaeological evidence of this assimilation remained so elusive? Over the years, countless other theories have emerged, each attempting to fill the void of uncertainty. Some suggest the colonists were wiped out by hostile tribes. Others propose they succumbed to disease or starvation while attempting to return to England on their own. More outlandish theories even invoke supernatural forces, blaming the disappearance on curses, demons, or angry spirits. The mystery of Roanoke has become a Rorschach test, reflecting the anxieties and preoccupations of each successive generation. In the 16th century, it was viewed as a cautionary tale about the dangers of the New World. In the 19th century, it was romanticized as a symbol of harmonious coexistence between Europeans and Native Americans. In the 20th and 21st centuries, it has been interpreted as a dark commentary on colonialism, cultural conflict, and the fragility of human civilization. But what if all these theories, all these centuries of speculation, have been focused on the wrong location, on the wrong narrative? What if the Croatoan clue, rather than a definitive answer, was a deliberate misdirection, a smokescreen to conceal a far more complex and surprising truth. This is where the AI comes in. It doesn't carry the weight of ingrained assumptions or the biases of human interpretation. It simply analyzes the data, searching for correlations and anomalies, following the digital breadcrumbs left behind by the past. And what the AI has found is, well, unexpected. It suggests that while the integration with the Croatoan tribe may have played a role for some colonists, it wasn't the whole story. The AI's analysis points to a different, more significant migration, one that led the Roanoke settlers not towards the coast, but inland, deep into the heart of North Carolina. Forget the widely accepted narrative of coastal assimilation. Prepare to have your understanding of the Roanoke mystery completely reevaluated, because what the AI has uncovered suggests a planned and concealed journey, revealing a surprising twist that challenges everything we thought we knew about the fate of the Lost Colony. A journey that perhaps, even now, holds the key to unlocking one of history's greatest enigmas. So the AI dove deep, way beyond the well-trodden paths of conventional history. It wasn't just looking at what was written, but how it was written. And even more intriguingly, what was erased. Remember those old maps drawn by John White, the colony's governor? For centuries, they've been accepted as gospel, accurate representations of the New World. But the AI saw something else, something hidden in plain sight. Using advanced spectral imaging and pattern recognition, the AI flagged anomalies, subtle alterations, faint erasures, things that the human eye, accustomed to seeing these maps as aged artifacts, simply missed. And what did these hidden details reveal? Indications of settlements, fortifications, and pathways leading inland. Not to Croatoan Island. Inland. This is where things get really interesting. The conventional theory hinges on that single word carved into a post, Croatoan. The assumption was that the colonists sought refuge with the Croatoan tribe on what we now know as Hatteras Island. And sure, there's evidence to support that. Archaeological digs on Hatteras have unearthed European-style tools and pottery alongside Native American artifacts, suggesting a degree of cultural mixing. The AI acknowledges this, even bolstering the theory by analyzing historical climate data and determining that Hatteras Island likely had a more sustainable food supply at the time, making it a logical destination for at least some of the colonists. But the AI also uncovered evidence pointing in a completely different direction. It identified a network of faint trails and markings on the maps, previously dismissed as cartographical errors or simple wear and tear, that seemed to suggest a deliberate attempt to obscure settlements further inland, specifically towards the area of present-day Bertie County, North Carolina. And it wasn't just the maps. The AI cross-referenced this data with archaeological findings from that region. And that's when the story started to solidify. Think about this. What if we've been looking in the wrong place the whole time? Instead of focusing solely on the coast, what if a significant portion of the Roanoke settlers ventured deeper into the mainland? What they found was fragments of English pottery, but not just any pottery. Pottery stylistically consistent with that produced in the Roanoke colony, unearthed deep within Native American settlements. This wasn't just trade goods. These were items that had clearly been lived with, broken, and discarded within the context of a long-term settlement. These villages were a considerable distance from the coast, far beyond what would be expected for simple trading expeditions. The AI then took things a step further. It analyzed the chemical composition of soil samples taken from these inland sites, and it found traces of European agricultural practices, specific soil amendments and farming techniques that were characteristic of the Roanoke settlers. All of this was adding up to a compelling case for inland movement. But even with the pottery and the soil samples, there was something missing. Something that would provide a definitive link between the Roanoke colonists and these inland settlements. That piece was DNA. The AI was fed a massive dataset of genetic information from modern-day Native American populations in the Bertie County region. It scoured the data, searching for specific genetic markers associated with European ancestry, and what it discovered was nothing short of groundbreaking: a subtle but undeniably present genetic signature linking these communities to European populations predating the Jamestown settlement, predating it by a generation. It wasn't the Jamestown settlers' descendants. These were individuals with a clear genetic link to the time frame of the Roanoke colony. For centuries, families in this region have passed down stories and traditions, unaware of the hidden European thread woven into their ancestry. Now, thanks to AI, that hidden history is being brought to light. This DNA evidence provides powerful support for the theory that at least some of the Roanoke colonists integrated into Native American communities further inland, leaving behind a legacy that has persisted for generations. But there's more to the maps. Let's go back to those hidden forts. The AI noticed that the forts weren't just erased. They were deliberately obscured using a technique that involved layering thin pieces of paper over the original markings. This wasn't some random act of carelessness. It was a calculated effort to conceal specific locations. The AI also uncovered a network of faint trails and markings on the maps, previously dismissed as cartographical errors or simple wear and tear, that seemed to suggest a deliberate attempt to obscure settlements further inland. Why would John White, or someone acting on his behalf, deliberately hide these settlements? The AI postulates several possibilities. Perhaps these forts represented strategically important locations that the English wanted to keep secret from their rivals, particularly the Spanish. Remember, this was a time of intense geopolitical competition, and England was desperate to gain a foothold in the New World. Hiding these forts would have been a way to protect their interests and prevent the Spanish from gaining valuable information. Another possibility is that these forts served as staging areas for further exploration and expansion. By concealing their presence, the English could have been planning to gradually push further into the interior, without alerting the Native American tribes to their true intentions. This would have allowed them to establish a stronger presence in the region and gain access to valuable resources. So what we have here is a confluence of evidence: altered maps, DNA evidence in Native American communities, unique pottery, soil analysis, and hidden forts, all pointing towards a new narrative of survival and assimilation, a narrative that suggests the Roanoke settlers didn't simply vanish into thin air, but rather embarked on a journey inland, adapting to a new environment, integrating into Native American societies, and leaving behind a legacy that continues to resonate today. The AI has shown us that the story of Roanoke is not just a tale of loss, but also one of resilience, adaptation, and cultural exchange. So, where does this all leave us? After centuries of speculation and the relentless application of cutting-edge AI, what can we definitively say about the fate of the Roanoke colonists? Well, the traditional narrative of complete annihilation needs a serious rewrite. The AI's findings powerfully suggest that the Roanoke story isn't one of ultimate loss, but rather one of cultural adaptation and remarkable resilience. Think about it. These weren't just English settlers clinging to their traditions in a vacuum. They were thrust into a vastly different environment, facing challenges they could never have anticipated. The AI is revealing a fascinating picture of blending, where European and Native American cultures weren't simply clashing, but also converging. Imagine the exchange of knowledge. The settlers perhaps offered metalworking skills or agricultural techniques. In return, the Native Americans shared their intimate understanding of the land, its resources, and survival strategies. This wasn't just about trade. It was about shared existence, a merging of worlds. Pottery shards discovered inland bear witness to this fusion, showcasing European forms crafted with indigenous techniques. The very language of the region likely evolved, incorporating words and phrases from both cultures, leaving faint echoes in modern dialects. The implications are profound. We're not just talking about physical survival, but cultural survival. The Roanoke colonists, in a sense, didn't disappear. They transformed. Their identities blurred, their traditions adapted, and they became interwoven with the fabric of the Native American societies they encountered. They left behind not a lost colony, but a hidden lineage, a whisper in the DNA of certain communities, a ghost story around the campfire that no one could quite place. But there's another, even more provocative layer to this mystery, and it circles back to those deliberately obscured forts on John White's map. Could the disappearance of Roanoke have been a meticulously planned deception orchestrated by the English crown itself? We touched on this earlier, but let's really consider it. England, in the late 16th century, was locked in a deadly chess game with Spain for control of the New World. Resources, both natural and strategic, were paramount. What if Roanoke wasn't just a fledgling colony, but a strategically important foothold, a base of operations that needed to be kept secret from prying Spanish eyes? Hiding the fort locations on the maps becomes less about simple cartographical error and more about calculated disinformation. It suggests a deliberate attempt to misdirect, to create a false narrative that would obscure England's true intentions. The Lost Colony, then, becomes a cover story, a convenient explanation for the abandonment of a strategically sensitive location. Perhaps the colonists were relocated, resettled further inland, or even integrated into existing Native American communities under a veil of secrecy. Their disappearance in this scenario wasn't a tragedy, but an act of strategic necessity. They became pawns in a much larger game, their fates sacrificed for the sake of England's imperial ambitions. This shifts the entire focus of the Roanoke mystery. It's no longer just about what happened to the settlers, but about what the English crown was trying to conceal. It transforms the narrative from one of colonial failure to one of espionage, political intrigue, and the ruthless pursuit of power. The beauty and the frustration of the Roanoke mystery is that it remains perpetually unresolved. Even with the power of AI, we can only glimpse fragments of the truth, piece together a complex puzzle with missing pieces. The AI has opened up new avenues of inquiry, revealing hidden connections and challenging long-held assumptions. It's showing that the story of Roanoke is not a closed book, but a constantly evolving narrative, shaped by new discoveries and fresh perspectives. So, the next time you hear about the Lost Colony, remember that it's more than just a historical footnote, a cautionary tale of colonial hubris. It's a testament to the human capacity for adaptation, the enduring power of cultural exchange, and the enduring allure of a mystery that may never be fully solved. It's a reminder that history is not a static collection of facts, but a dynamic and ever-shifting landscape waiting to be explored with new tools and open minds. And thanks to AI, we're closer than ever to understanding the complex, multi-layered truth behind the legend of Roanoke. But it's also important to remember that we might be looking at the greatest cover-up in the history of colonization. Food for thought. And until next time, keep questioning everything.